today we have with us an amazing artist, an Indian contemporary artist, and who's kind of breaks all records in contemporary art across the globe. But most importantly, she's someone that doesn't fit any one definition. And you'll know pretty quickly what I mean with the conversation we are going to have. So with that, Bharti, I don't give long introductions. People can look up online about all the awards and accolades you got, but I really want to get to who you are. So thank you so much. I know you travel all over the world and you're a busy artist. So first of all, thank you so much for giving us the time. And just a brief background, this is part of a book that we are doing along with Herky and Ink Women came together. We are doing this book called Ink Her, where we are going to be featuring 49 women. And why 49? Because 49.6%, I think, of the world is women. And we figured no woman is 0.6%. She's either 120% or not. So we said 49%. So 49 women we are featuring in this book, and you're one of them. So really thrilled to have you. Um, Bharti, I thought we'll start with the beginning. You were born in the UK
Yeah.
and then you came to India in your 20s. You don't like to be called either British or Indian or any such thing. But tell us a little bit about what took you in your 20s to land up in India and actually decide to stay in India.
Yeah. First, thank you for having me, Lakshmi. I'm very honored. We are old friends, and it's also
Yes,
good to see you again. Um,
yes,
we've been talking for many years. Um,
yeah,
and I remember this was one of the first questions you asked me because you were very curious as to how I actually got
yeah,
here in the first place.
yeah.
Um,
Usually we see the other way, people going from India and settling there, but not
I,
the other way around.
I have been called like the reverse diaspora, which
Yes.
I've been called many things, but it's not necessarily true now that maybe when I was a lot younger, I sort of resisted categorization. Now I think that as the work and myself have become more fluid, it doesn't really bother me. Today I'm Indian, tomorrow I'm British, the day after I'm diasporic, the next day I'm not. I think in my work as well, I change my mind all the time. I contradict myself. But going back to your question, how did I come to India?
Mhm,
I was 22. I'd left art school in the UK. I hadn't applied to do an MA because at the time I was a painter. Um,
mhm,
the YBAs they were exploding on the British art scene. And there really wasn't a place for me in that language, in that conversation. Um,
mhm.
it was I was young and I also felt excluded from that conversation. And I realized that if I wanted to do what I needed to do as an artist, I needed to maybe just get away from that noise, from that time, because it intuitively felt like the right thing to do. And I was deciding between New York and New Delhi. And I literally tossed a coin and it was Delhi. And I thought, oh, all right, then I'll just go to India. And I hadn't been to India since I was 4 years old
Mm,
for many
yeah.
reasons. Um, and I came to Delhi and I arrived and I have family and mussies and uncles and aunts and cousins here. But I also,
Mm,
more importantly, I had my grandmother who I hadn't seen, and
mm,
my maternal grandmother, and I wanted
mhm.
to meet her. So that's why I came to Delhi.
Yeah, and then, after coming to Delhi, you stay for a bit, etc.
Mm.
But to actually decide, I want to live here now,
Mm.
was that kind of a gradual thing, or once you came here, you were like, I'm just going to live here? I mean, well, these days there's nothing called living in any one place. We are all a little bit nomadic, but you sort of made India your base. So,
You
how
know,
was that as an artist? How was that for you when you came here? Did you feel, wow, this bursting with color, it's inspiring me. That's why I want to stay here? Or what was that as an artist that called India to you and made you want to
mm,
just stay here?
uh, firstly, I met Subodh. So let's be really honest. I met my husband, now my husband, but at the time I met this young artist called Subodh Gupta, and
Uh,
we very quickly sort of got together. I'd only been in India for about 6 weeks, and I bumped into him one day, and that's it. We
mm,
started hanging out, and we started just looking at each other's work and looking at films and looking at art. I didn't speak Hindi actually, I
mm,
didn't speak Hindi at all.
yeah.
Um, but there was something in India, and then there was him. I'd fallen in love, and
Mm-hmm.
but there was something here that was really like unconventional. It felt very exciting, it felt very alive and dynamic. And it kind of like after some time, as the more time I started to spend and understand, I mean, of course, it was a completely new world for me. I'm not even going to
Yeah.
pretend that it wasn't. My upbringing in the UK was pretty anglicized, and I was a young Asian British person, but the way that I approached my life was very British. So when I
Mm-hmm.
came to India, it was a very new language, but also a new way of living. But I also found it exciting in some ways. There was a freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I think within some time after being here, I realized that I used to imagine, I'd say, well, maybe this is what the 60s in Europe looked like. If you wanted to be an artist in India, you just said, I'm an artist, and that's it. You became one. If you want to be a filmmaker, you said, I'm going to be a filmmaker, and off you went and practiced and did the work, put the work in, and you
Mm-hmm.
could become what you wanted. So you could, in some ways, follow your dreams. There was also in the 90s, early 90s in India, 90, Manmohan Singh came into power, the
Mm-hmm.
expansion of India. I remember making a work, I think it was called Star TV, because suddenly there was like there was cable television. And so
Yeah.
expansion and change in the imagination of people, suddenly you watched
Mm-hmm.
you watched it unfold in a way that is unfathomable now, because the way that the internet allows us this kind of extremely fast access to information wasn't there then. If you imagine that there was 2 films a day in India in 1991, one at 6 p.m. and Doordarshan 1 and Doordarshan 2. I mean, it's almost, you
Yeah.
can't imagine it. We didn't have computers. Um,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
we used to use fax machines and
Yeah.
STD calls.
STD
So,
calls. Yes.
right? So if I wanted to speak to somebody in the UK, I'd have to walk,
Yes.
half a kilometer in the 40 degrees heat to the phone box, and feed this little meter copious amounts of money. I think it was
Yeah.
300 rupees a minute. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Very
so
expensive. Yeah.
it
Very
was,
short conversations.
yeah, and it was this sort of it was a very um it was a very self-regulated time, in the sense that you were relying on yourself only. So
Mm-hmm.
were evolving on your own without eyes. Um, and you were given, there was a lot of space around you to do things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I found that exciting.
Yeah. And also, I think, I mean, I've known both you and Subodh. You come from as different backgrounds
Yeah.
as can be, it's sort of, but I think somehow the symbiosis is more around art, around common interests. And it really shows that all these artificial differences we have in our lives of where are you from, or, what language do you speak, etc.,
Mm.
all disappear when you have a common language, whatever that language may be. And in your language of art, Bharti, you're known for your work with the bindi a lot, and you bringing the bindi to the contemporary in a very interesting way. It's sort of, like we all put bindi since the time we were kids, but I don't think anyone who grew up in India till then saw it as a source of art. And you are bringing a new set of eyes
Mm.
into India, and you saw it as a source of art. So, how did that begin for you? Like to see um, Bindi as a source of art, to your large works are composition of Bindis.
Mm. As exactly as you said, sometimes when the familiarity of objects or the familiarity of place sometimes makes you don't see things that are like right in front of you, whereas somebody who comes from the outside, they come in with fresh eyes. So
Mm-hmm.
I also when I came to India, I was trained as a painter, and
Mm.
I when I and my work was specifically vernacular in the UK. I referred to contemporary culture, what was going around, images that were recognizable. When I arrived in India, I realized that I didn't want to become a kind of cliche of myself. Um, so
Mm-hmm.
what I was looking at was new, and I realized that I wasn't speaking the same language. I was almost dancing. I kept saying, I'm kind of like, I'm out of sync here. I'm sort of dancing out of tune. I'm not getting the beat of the music. I'm not able to sing to the music because I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what that music is. It's not familiar. So everything was new for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized, I don't know if I actually thought about it, but in retrospect, it's very easy to look back and see how you might have moved along this trajectory. Was
Mm-hmm.
that I see now that I was able to harness sort of the power of the unknown. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that is really an important, and that's something that's taught me a lot along the way,
Mm-hmm.
is to
Mm-hmm.
follow your instinct, to follow your
Yeah.
intuitive voice that tells you that's something to look at. Have a look at it
Mm-hmm.
and maybe investigate it for longer than one work or two works,
Mm-hmm.
5 works,
Mm-hmm.
because a
Yeah.
language is something that is evolved over time. And so for me, the
Mm-hmm.
Bindi works have become a language that I have created for my
Yeah.
practice, but also it's a unique language. Nobody makes those kind of works.
Mm-hmm.
The Bindis are
Yeah.
really, I mean, and how I started making them is very different to how I progressed into what I do. I mean, it's interesting
Yeah.
now, those works are sort of coming to a close in my practice.
Yeah.
It's interesting that we're talking about it now because it's like 20, 30 years. And the Bindi works for me now are starting to slow down. They're really closing because I feel like I've come to a point where I've kind of said what I needed to say, but I've also
Right.
created that language now and I speak it.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
exciting part for me was when I was still learning it. Uh,
Right.
and now it's sort of second nature, and maybe it's time to learn a new language.
And
Um,
that's what I was going to say. You're working with a lot of different materials, the
yeah.
saris, like there is a different materials you're working with. So tell us about that.
You know,
Uh,
I had I had a really great art teacher growing up when I was young and when I was at school. And I think those lessons that I learned about material and courage or lack of fear in terms of how you approach things that you don't know has
mm-hmm.
really has given me, I mean, it's left me in good stead for most of my practice because I like materials, and for me
Mm-hmm.
material is meaning. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not the message necessarily, but it has meaning and it takes me to where I need to go with the ideas of the work. So if I don't know
Mm-hmm.
about, say, if I don't know about how to work with a particular, for example, how did I start working with the saris? Was purely because I needed to clothe a female figure, a casting that I'd done. And she specifically did not need to be naked. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because now these are very clear ideas or ideologies that I have in the work. What is the work
Mm-hmm.
saying when the female body is unclothed? And what does it
Mm-hmm.
say? Does the work take you to where you want to go, or does it focus you on a place where the work takes you into another direction? These are all questions
Yeah.
that come within the practice. I needed to
Mm-hmm.
clothe her. I'm not a good clay maker. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so what I realized that, okay, what is the solution to this problem that I have? I think
Mm-hmm.
a really important lesson that I learned very early on was never to focus on the problems of the work. It was always
Mm-hmm.
to look at what is the solution that I can come up with that will answer and deal with this problem that I'm having right now. If I cannot do it in this way, which way can I
Mm-hmm.
do it to arrive? And can I
Mm-hmm.
accept outcome B? Is it acceptable
Mm-hmm.
to me? Usually the answer is yes. And actually what's more interesting is that I find a new direction that I haven't been before.
And also, you've done many different types of work, right? Like in Six Women, you cast real women, and then, and in other series of works, you do totally different stuff. So tell us a little bit about the Six Women. What inspired you to do that, and how did you come about, this is what I'm going to do?
You see, Lakshmi, I think that I see my practice not as linear at all.
Yeah.
I see my practice as circular. And so I go back to ideas that I consistently have in my work. And I think the fundamental premise of my work is the investigation of the body. Even the Bindi works talk about it, the inner, the outer, the micro, the macro, the inner cells, the outer, how you respond, this third eye that you have here,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
inner consciousness. What does it do? Why is it here? What are we looking at? What is your inner voice? And
Mm-hmm.
so the Bindi works are very internal. They're very private, personal works. They're about my inner journeys, my fights with myself, my fights with the work, everything. They're about my inner battles. But not just
Correct.
my
Yeah.
battles, about the questions that I ask, the ways that we live. Um, the sculptural works are about the physicality of the body. How do I exist in this world? How do materials function, or how do they animate? Um, I I'm a great believer in the power of material. That I think that all things, including us and the body and the sky and nature and the rock and the trees, we are animate, and we are deeply connected.
Mm-hmm.
We're connected through energy and vibration and sound. And so when I cast the body, I'm not just looking at material. What
Mm-hmm.
can plaster capture memory? Because plaster is an organic material that's been
Mm-hmm.
used for 3,500 years. The Egyptians were the first to use it, as they realized that if they would cast death masks, they believed, or they understood, that a part of the essence of that person would be carried into the mask, and then that would be buried into the tomb, so that there would be a memory of something living, of a past that was lived, that would take you into the next life. Because they also believed, which I think is beautiful, is that when we die in this time at this earth, we are actually moving into another axis,
Mm-hmm.
our time
Mm-hmm.
on earth and this place. But we actually, I mean, the human brain is actually not able to conceive of time
Mm-hmm.
in any sort of legitimate or logical way. So
Mm-hmm.
when I go back again to this idea of materials, I'm talking about time, I'm talking about memory, I'm talking about experiences. So when I decide to cast six women who are six sex workers who are my age at the time, who've decided, who I've asked, who I've gone to meet and say, would you come and work with me? This is what I'd like to do. I'm also
Mm-hmm.
talking about not just materiality, not just memory, but I'm also talking about ethics,
Mm-hmm.
exploitation. What does it mean if a woman buys the body of another woman?
Mm-hmm.
What are the
Yeah.
ethics of this? What are the ethics of art making? What is the history of art making? How is the
Mm-hmm.
female body seen over the years, or the aging female body? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that many. I had never seen. I mean, I looked and I was like, I don't see that many sculptures of 45-year-old naked women. Um,
Yeah.
I don't see so many. I don't see any
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any three-dimensional works that actually do not valorize or reduce the size, or overly beautify, or gender side, or or, or kind of like overly make them overly beautiful or strong or powerful. Or I mean, I've done it myself. When I make the goddess sculptures, they are strong, they're powerful sculptures.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at my own practice in some way, just saying, like, um when what am I doing in my own work?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I stop, maybe, how can I look at this idea of the over sexualization of the female body in
Mm-hmm.
in and what does this actually mean? So, you know, the work took me a really long time to make. The questions that I'm asking, I still have not answered fully.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
think this is a work that will answer your questions.
Yeah.
I think it is a Pandora's box of questions. And that,
Yeah.
I think, the power of the work, because they are, in spite of being closed off, the women sit with their eyes closed. In
Yeah.
spite of the work having this deadly silence, it's a cacophony of noise in a room when they are placed. And they, even in spite of the being impenetrable,
Yeah.
you
And
feel all of it. You feel their very insides inside your body. And sometimes that's what ideas and art can do when they've been pushed together in this really radical, difficult,
yeah.
contradictory way.
You know, your work is so much about women, and it's also about, you say, people asking questions. It's not about giving answers, it's about asking questions.
Mm.
What kind of questions do you think women today should ask themselves? What would you like, when you look at what's happening in general around us?
Mm.
And in this forum, we've been talking a lot about women and their economic success and how they need to ask for it, how they need to stand for it, etc. So, what are the kinds of things you think women should do more of, or ask more of, or question more of?
You know, I think the most important thing is like how we ask, what kind of questions are we asking ourselves? And I think we have to be really aware of this and this inner voice or this inner critic that so many women, most of them, most of my
Yes,
girlfriends, like we
yes,
know exactly what we're talking about when we say, you know
yes,
what, inner critic of mine.
yeah,
I think what I've learned, instead of asking yourself punishing questions about, you know, why is this not right? Or why didn't I do this? Or maybe we have
or
to,
why did I do it?
yeah, maybe we need to ask ourselves the question of, what do I need to do to get to where I want to go? And I
Yeah,
think this is a very fundamental change in the way that you think about, and it's not just about this sort of woohoo positivity. It's actually a very fundamental inner question. What do I need to do to arrive or to go where I need to go? If this work, for example, I'll just give you a very simple, like in the studio, if I'm looking at a work and it's not working and I'm not sort of going, why is this work shit?
yeah, right.
It really is, right? We all
Yeah,
make really bad work. Everybody does. You ask
yeah,
yourself the question, what do I need to do to get this work to not to move into the next direction? Sometimes if that means take it
mhm,
down, start
mhm,
again,
yeah,
do it, look at it
yeah,
from the other side, turn it upside down, break it open,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
remove this part, remove an appendage.
Mm-hmm,
Be
mm-hmm.
afraid of the material. The material is
Yeah.
always, you can always make it again.
Mm-hmm.
Be precious with ourselves, and to be precious with our body, believing that somehow we are not going to, we are too fragile, is just you getting in your own way, actually,
Right.
because
Yeah.
inherently the body has innate wisdom. It is extremely powerful. It
Yeah.
does everything that it needs to do without you asking it.
Yeah.
It just does what it does every single day. It's a miracle.
I mean, it is amazing how many things come together to make one move happen.
Yeah,
So
they are
the
miracles.
body is doing its work, so is your mind letting the body
Yeah.
do its work?
So
And
sometimes I think
yeah,
the really important thing is to master your mind. It is,
yeah,
you know, in the same way we say exercise the body, you master your mind, which means you have to understand what is going on up here in this
yeah,
like incredibly small nut of yours, which is just like the most amazing machine. But
yeah,
it can cause chaos, and
yeah,
it does cause chaos, but It's also a really it's also a space of magic and
Mm-hmm.
ability and power. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the questions, Bharti, that's come up, and I'll ask you, one of the things we've been talking a lot here about economics, how women should own their economics. And
Mm,
you went from a startup artist all the way up to, some auctions, the most paid, whatever, whatever the economic norms are.
mm.
So one of the questions that been asked here, Akhya is asking, is that how did you start monetizing your art? Did you have a agent that took care of it so you could keep working, or how did you, as an artist,
Mm.
how did you start monetizing it? What was your um, route to it?
Um, I don't think one size fits all to this question. I'll talk about my
Sure.
experience.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Um, I I think the first thing is to show up every day
Yeah.
to make the work. You need a body of work. You need to, and to make that body of work, you need time. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
5, 10, 15 years to be like practicing, making mistakes, changing your work. I think I think I was lucky in some way. Nobody looked at my work for 15 years. And so
Yeah.
I was able to get all of the rubbish. I was able to just like vomit it all out, just do it all and just get it done, succeed and fail and succeed and fail and fail and fail and fail and just keep going. But I think
Yeah.
you eventually, you start small. It's really one step, one foot in front of the other, one exhibition. Uh, then you
Mm-hmm.
put the show up, you take it down, you take your work home, nothing sells. You do another one friend buys it, something does it, you get some money, you put it back into the work again. I think for me, I got my very first break in the 90s, no, early 2000s, sorry. When a collector, Arani Bose, was coming to India. He just started a gallery. He came to my studio and bought like a whole series of works. That was really pivotal for me because it gave me enough money to pay my rent for my studio for a year. So
Mm-hmm.
I put that money down and just gave it to my landlord and said, right.
Yeah. Was this the Bose Special in New
Yeah.
York? Yeah.
I
Okay.
was based in New York. And also there was another woman
Yeah.
who had a Dutch gallery, and she gave us a project when my son was really small to do as more of a commercial work. But I didn't make any money from my work at the beginning. I did other stuff to
Yeah.
make money. We were hustling,
Yeah.
hustling, hustling. And someone said, can you paint this door? I'd paint it.
Yeah.
We did anything to make money,
Yeah.
to go to the studio. I was ready to, as long as it was creative and I was in
Mm-hmm.
the studio making it, I just knew
Mm-hmm.
that all that was going back into the studio. And then you just invest. You can buy
Mm-hmm.
more paint, more work,
Mm-hmm.
canvas,
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the key there is what that you said, that you just show up, whether
Yeah.
it's sold or not, or left or right, you just show up every day and then just keep doing, and
Yeah.
something will come your way.
It,
But did it help you to say, hey, so and so can help me do this, or now you have a gallerist and things
yeah.
like that. Do these things help you
Yeah.
channel your work?
Yes, they do, because you find your tribe and you find your people. And that's a
Mm,
very, very important part of the artist journey. You got to
mhm.
find your friends, your artist friends. You've got to sit with people who teach you, who you can learn from, who challenge you, who push back at you, tell you what they think about your work. Honestly, you don't want yes men and people who tell you you're great. You need people
Correct.
who are ready to actually, and that's what your contemporaries, as your art friends, I mean, that's what we had at the time. We used to sit together and fight and talk and argue and generally, yeah, upset each other. I'm not sure,
Mhm.
sure you can do that anymore, because you might get a bit cancelled. But
Yeah,
yeah, we used to talk a lot about
yeah,
art. Saw than I
yeah,
we had each other, so we would
Yeah.
about everything, who we liked, why we liked it. But also, I think it's really important to look at art. You know,
Right.
you're
Yeah.
not you're not just a maker, you're also looking to see what other artists are doing, how they're making it, how they're hanging.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
see as many shows as you can. And now, of course, everyone, you have so much access to
Yeah.
booking. I mean, we used to go to the American Center once a week to
Uh-huh.
see if they'd got a new art forum.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it, And then we'd pore over every page, just going, and if anyone bought a magazine or a book, we used to share it amongst friends.
Yeah.
Like the new catalog of Jeff Koons, for example, or somebody, somebody's work has just been, someone's been to Europe, and they would say, bring books, and everyone would bring books, and then we'd all look at them and share and
Mm-hmm.
see what people were making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's another question here from Manisha. She's saying she's doing her PhD research in sociology, and the topic involves around erotic sculptures in Khajuraho, etc., and trying to understand the sexual culture of medieval India. What's your opinion? What can you? It also portrays a lot of female sculptures. So, what's your thought on what was going on in the culture at that time to have these erotic sculptures happen in Khajuraho?
Acceptance of the body,
Yeah.
freedom in mind, spirit, education, culture,
Mm-hmm.
um, understanding that man is part of, and man and woman are part of nature, that the
Mm-hmm.
world is, we were possibly a more syncretic society where everything was looked at as a whole. Dogma
Mm-hmm.
dogma was less prevalent. Um, all of
We
those,
didn't have a value judgments about whether
yeah.
it's a body or a structure or what. I mean, it was very most natural thing to do, I guess.
The celebration of beauty was the human form, and
Yeah.
it's not a new thing. It's not just ancient India was doing it; Rome was doing it too. And if you look at the earliest forms of worship or sculpture, even if you look at the Harappan, if you look at Harappan early civilization forms, all those small clay sculptures, what are they? They're human bodies, human,
Mm-hmm.
human, animal, and spirit gods. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
the idea of divinity was the metaphor of divinity was the human form,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the only way to God or the spirit or something larger yourself was through this vehicle that we call the body now. And I totally believe that the only way
Mm-hmm.
to get to some kind of inner understanding, or the self or the spirit or something divine, you can call it spirit, you can call it God, you can call it whatever you want, is the only vehicle you have is the body.
Right. Right.
It's not your computer.
Yeah, I agree. No, and also, Bharti, another question that's come that Marisa is asking is, how can parents or educators foster an environment that encourages not just creativity, but also appreciation for visual arts in kids? Is it taking them regularly to museums or show? I mean, now we have museums coming home on our laptops and stuff.
Mm.
So, what are some of the things you have done actually at your home, or what do you think parents or educators should do to create that appreciation?
It's a really long pronged, many pronged approach in India, because we kind of have to start, and I don't mean to sound cynical, we kind of have to start very, like, from the beginning. There's so much to do, and there's
Mm-hmm.
so much to see as well. I mean, we are a 5,000-year-old civilization. And
Mm-hmm.
in India, we have some of the most magnificent,
Mm-hmm.
extraordinary works and histories of art coming through all the way back till now. And so we're talking about archaeology, we're talking about infrastructure, we're talking about education, we're talking about culture ministries, we're talking about philanthropy.
Yeah.
We're also talking about, like, government private government partnerships. We're talking about corporate sponsorships. Oh, my God, there's so much to do.
Yeah.
What can you do on a micro level for yourself? Um, buy books, buy
Yeah.
book buy books that your children can look at, which have art. Don't be prudish about the body.
Yeah.
Show them things that are difficult to look at. Discuss why this work is controversial and that is not. Allow people to have opinions about things that are contradictory to yours.
Mm-hmm.
Be challenging, challenge them to new things. I mean, I'm not a prime example. I mean,
Yeah.
I may be an artist.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had my children, I've had my daughter sit outside the Tate while I've gone in to have a look at the show because because she refuses to go to a museum. But take them to a museum and
Yeah.
and let them moan. I mean, it's fine, let
Yeah.
them moan. But 10 years later, they sort of go, something sticks with them, because you also
Right.
remember that art is not easy. It's not it's not sort of fast culture. It's not going to satisfy you quickly. It's going to sit with you in ways
Mm-hmm.
you don't often remember or realize. It's not easy to understand. It bothers you when you don't like a work.
Mm-hmm.
Most people have very
And
strong opinions of art that they don't like, and
yeah.
they take it very seriously. They will fight for art. They will
Mm-hmm.
fight against work they don't like. And I find that deeply fascinating, because it means
Mm-hmm.
that it's touching something that we are not able to quite name.
Right. You talked about Jeff Koons earlier, so I have a question for you
Yeah.
about Indian contemporary art in general and its value in the market. And sometimes, I mean, especially Jeff Koons, sometimes when I see why is that sold for so much and why not Indian contemporary art, whose thought, I mean, I know so many of the artists and the way they think, the sophistication of the thought and the work is no less compared to many other things that I see. So, I mean, you are an artist, so this is not just about the money, but it's about the value. What do you think we need to do to increase the value of the contemporary art on a global stage, Indian contemporary art on a global stage?
I mean, I'm maybe not the best person to answer your question. I'm sure there's plenty of other people who'd love to talk
Yeah.
about the market in India. But in terms of, I mean, I don't look at it in terms of value as such. I think we have a lot of work to do in India because, like, for example, I'll give you just one example. India is one of the only countries that doesn't have a pavilion at the Biennale in Venice. And
Mm,
when it does, the government, if they do, the government loves to interfere and tell you what they think you should put there. And I think that there's not an arts council in India, and there needs to be one. And
mhm,
but
mm.
also, I mean, I don't particularly want to talk about the market because I'd rather just talk about
Yeah,
ideas and the work. So I will
I
politely
understand.
go to the next question.
Actually, we'll wrap up in a couple of questions. We have Priya asking, is it feasible to start a career in art at the age of 50?
Oh my God, yeah, go for it.
Yes,
Uh, there,
resounding yes.
there is no age. I mean, there's no age. I just saw there was a beautiful show of an artist at the Cartier Foundation about 2 years ago. She was an Aboriginal artist, and I'm really ashamed to say, I'm sorry, I don't remember her name. She started work when she was 80. She made over 2,000
Wow.
paintings in 7 years. And then they asked why she started at 80. And she said, I listened to my inner voice and it said, you need to start painting. So
Yeah.
it's never too late to do anything.
I know. And also, I think as you were just talking, about the difference between an artist and a market and all that, is that the purpose of it is to express yourself. What happens to it, don't worry about it. But I think we have all these things of can I start at this age or whatever, because we get into this thing of will I be able to sell? Will people like it? But doing has nothing to
I don't
do with
know.
any of that.
I don't know because that's not why I started. I
Right,
like being an artist for me is my calling, and
right,
doing this.
right.
I've wanted to be an artist since I was, I don't know, 6 years old or 7 years old. This is what I was always going to do. I never thought,
Yeah.
actually,
Mm-hmm.
I never thought that I would make a living out of this. And I'm really
Yeah.
glad I did. And
Yeah.
because it gives me more freedom and it's
Mm-hmm.
me
Yeah.
all the dreams that I ever, I mean, it was my dream. And I'm kind of living in a dream, and sometimes it's hard and sometimes it's not, and sometimes I get what I want and sometimes I don't. But
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
you seek support when you need it along the way. And there are
Mm-hmm.
many fellow travelers. Some drop,
Yeah.
some stay with you,
Mm-hmm.
but you constantly grow. And I think that's one thing that I've tried to do, is constantly learn and grow as I go. I read
Yeah.
a lot. I trust my
Mm-hmm.
instincts. I try not to compare myself to anybody else, because my journey is mine.
Yeah.
Good, bad, whatever it is, my work is
Yeah.
work. It can't be anybody else's.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think you have to embrace courage,
Mm-hmm.
because courage is the enemy of fear. And we can spend
Mm-hmm.
our entire lives being afraid to start something that we've never done before. Lady age
Mm-hmm.
50, go for it. But if you embrace courage, you are, everything is expanding. It's an expansion
Right.
rather than a contracting space. And I
Yeah.
think art is about that. Art is about this thing of it's about expansion, and you have to you can try and like enter that place where everything feels like constantly in this evolving stage of possibility.
Yeah. And also, I think, what you're saying applies to pretty much every discipline, be it
Yes,
art, be it
yes,
coding, be it fashion, doesn't matter what it is. If you
yeah,
love it, do it, show up every day,
yeah,
and it'll lead somewhere. At least you're happy doing what you are doing, and not worry too much. And,
yeah.
from that point of view, we have somebody, Shilpa, was asking, she's a student. It's an interesting thing of she's saying, I'm a painting student, but since I was in my last year of undergrad, I lost my interest in painting. But then I'm doing fashion, and that's not going anywhere. I'm very confused. I'm unable to see any progress. What should I do? I mean, there's a lot of things. What does progress mean at that time? You just show up and do it. And so maybe we have this thing placed on ourselves of, my God, in a year I should see progress, or 2 years I see progress, and things become difficult. I don't know what it is, but do you have any advice, input for someone who says, I'm really confused, I really don't know what to do?
I I do, actually, because I think you have to, what I tend to do is I write things
Mm-hmm.
down. I sort out my thoughts in my head. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you have two things, and you just put them there and there, and you
Yeah.
visualize them and you choose one, because you have to, it is a discipline. You have to pursue scholarship. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe, this is something I believe, you have to pursue excellence. And if you're going to pursue excellence, you need to choose, because you cannot do two things. So when you
Yeah.
choose something, you have you need to give it some time. You
Yeah.
can't expect the results to come in a year. I think in my when I was about 28, I decided, yes, I'm gonna do this. I'm going for it. I came to India when I was 22. I had my first son when I was 28, and I thought, okay, now I've had my baby. I'm gonna give myself till I'm 36
Yeah.
years, but I'm gonna really work hard in 8 years, and I'm gonna see where I'm gonna go. Otherwise, I'm gonna maybe find a job or earn some money.
Yeah.
And I gave myself that time. And by 35, I had found what I needed to do. And I was on my way into my career. Um,
Yeah.
but success is really hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
it's confusion is not a bad thing. Confusion
Mm-hmm.
is, people sort of feel like they've got to know where they're going and what they're doing. I mean, I still go to my studio sometimes, and I'm like, I walk around totally confused. Like, sorry, what have you been doing for like 10 years?
Yeah.
What is not here? And
Yeah.
confusion means that you're thinking, and
Right.
you have to learn to read. Again, it's going back to the question, like, what are the questions I'm asking myself? If you're confused,
Mm-hmm.
it's about asking yourself, what is this telling me? What is my
Mm-hmm.
mind asking me to resolve?
Mm-hmm.
Might be asking
Yeah.
you to resolve. Can you please choose? Because actually, it's a bit overwhelming having to have two careers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I'm going to ask this last question that has come up. There are other questions, but I'm just going to ask this and then wrap up. Sargi is asking, can you recommend any books, Substack accounts, online publications that help women embrace their sexuality and body?
Oh, okay. Substack, I'm not so familiar with. Books, of course. Read read Lydia Davis, read Clarice Lispector, Virginia Woolf. I mean, all just read. Read as much
Yeah.
as you can. Read about from everything from poetry to history. Read Deheja's book on the body adornment. Read read is just, I don't know. I mean, I have a big library, and I pick and
What are
choose.
your favorite books? Maybe you can say which are the ones you loved the most that talked about female sexuality and body.
I'm not talking about female sexuality. I can talk about some of the books that I've loved in my life.
Yeah,
And they
sure.
spoke to me a lot at the time. Um,
Yeah.
I thought Kafka's Metamorphosis for me was like a really extraordinary book. It talked
Mm-hmm.
about um, the inner change. It also made me understand the mind and how creativity could be like wrapped into a single space, or you could get caught up in a place. I thought, um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kafka is he's dark, and there is a part of my practice that also embraces that inner darkness. I mean, he says that,
Mm-hmm.
what does he say? He says, art is no, yeah, art is the axe that breaks the frozen ice, which I really
Yeah.
like. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it, I liked, when I was young, and I suppose when I was about 17 or 18, I read Hanif Qureshi's The Buddha of Suburbia.
Yeah.
That
Uh-huh.
was a really important book for me, because growing
Mm-hmm.
up in Britain,
Yes.
I didn't I didn't see anyone. I didn't feel like there was anyone like me
Mm-hmm.
talking about sexuality. But it's in the first line of the book. My name is Kareem. And he basically says in the first that I like boys. And I was,
Yeah.
wow, Asian men like. And then
Yeah.
he talks about gender and female sexuality of the Asian woman,
Mm.
experimenting. And I found that book to be radical and
Mm-hmm.
credible. It was also reminded me of my own father, and my parents.
Mm-hmm.
They also divorced when I was very young. And
Mm-hmm.
it just, I think you have to find books of your time. There's
Right.
things that I like to be recommended books by people that I know, like my daughter now recommends things for me to read. um
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
read widely, and
I
also
know.
anthropologically, and sort of like the polymath. So you read about science,
Right.
you read about history, you read about anthropology, you read about art. And
Mm-hmm.
all of those things feed into your work and how you are in the world. um
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think even something as nonfiction as Our Bodies Ourselves, like way back when, 50 years ago, was so interesting because, especially in the time I grew up, nobody talked about anything. Nobody talked about bodies. Nobody talked about what you feel.
Yeah.
Nobody talked about whether it's from menstruation to something else to something. I mean, no one talked about what happens to your body. And I think today we are so lucky. We have access to everything at the, you know, edge of our fingers, basically. You just have to type in and you have an answer for just about everything. So I think we are living in good times where if we are not finding the answers, it's just because we are not trying at all, because you don't have to try too hard to get the answers
You're not
today.
asking the right questions, actually.
Right.
So
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to frame it like, what am I looking for? So
Mm-hmm.
you can
Mm-hmm.
find that in like even now in terms of like the books about the body that are not about gender or sexuality. They're also about
Correct.
investigations into the body. There's somatic work that's being done,
Mm-hmm.
memory work that's being done, connection between
Mm-hmm.
mind body work that's being done. I mean, things that are like there's so many more people that are just writing about
Mm-hmm.
way that we live in our bodies.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually, I mean, I just want to wrap up by saying that, when I was pregnant, I was very afraid. Like I always felt somehow, uh, like I will die if I had a kid. It's like just this
Oh,
fear
wow.
of this.
Okay.
So one of my friends sent me this absolutely stunning video that he has created. It's called From Conception to Birth, and
Mm,
his name is Alexander Ciaras, and it is one of the most beautiful videos, like just a less than, and it shows the child grow from like, beginning to the time they come out,
mm,
and with beautiful music. And, that's what his work is all about, showing the inside of the body.
mm,
And it was so beautiful
mm.
that I was just like, my God, I don't know anything about my body actually. And
Yeah.
look at the inside. The inside is actually beautiful.
Mm,
And the skin is just actually hiding all the beauty, you
mm.
know. And that video just, I watched it probably 50 times when I was pregnant. I mean, literally, I would keep watching it over and
And you
over
and
and
you
over
and
again.
you stopped being afraid.
Yeah. I mean, it was, forget being afraid. I was just like, I love being pregnant. Like it was just like, it changed my whole relationship with my body of, oh my God, it's a miracle. Look how beautiful it is. Like it just turns everything upside down when you find the right thing, and it's changed actually my whole perception of, we always, like when my sister was a doctor, you see the skeleton or something, you think the inside of the body is like this ugly thing, etc.
Yeah.
But with this, I felt, oh my God, I mean, the framework of our body is amazing,
Yeah.
like look at this little vertebrae, this little thing that's holding us all together, and we put so much weight on it, stupid bags and backpacks and this and that, and it's still standing, I just thought, just, I think I would love to have everybody, if you have questions about body, just look at the inside of the body and just
Yeah.
see what it's made of. It's amazing the way the heart pumps, to the way the blood flows, to the, everything is like magical inside our body. And
I think that's why for me I think that's why I read more fictional than perhaps other kinds of studies. I mean, so going back to the question, I'd read Maggie Nelson. I mean, I'd look
mhm,
at her work. I'd look at Chris Kraus. Every artist should read I Love Dick. I mean, they should read all her work. She's quite fantastic.
mhm,
Um, yeah, again, like Emily Dickinson. All those Maya Angelou, amazing. Toni
mhm.
Morrison. I mean, loads of artists, loads of writers.
Yeah. Someone was asking to tell the name of the person. His name is Alexander Ciaras. And if you go online and type Alexander Ciaras From Conception to Birth,
Yeah,
it's there. Either you can go to Ink Talks or TED. It's there in both the places.
writing it
It's
down.
really, really a beautiful thing. I just posted it on the chat so you
Oh,
can look
cool.
at it. But I think so. Anyway, I want to wrap up by saying, Bharti, thank you so much, not just for your time here, but for all that you do. I've known you for a while, and it's always fun to talk to you. It's never boring, and I would love to actually end by you telling us what are some new things you'd like to try.
To try. Oh,
Well, I
like
mean, what are your new things you want to do? Actually, for you,
I
there's nothing like trying. You are already
yeah.
planned what you want to do.
I know if I want to do something, I'll put it into motion and then I'll get there.
Right.
I'm actually looking to make something in film. It's something that I need to make it as a short, but I have never done it before, so I'm actually in a state of confusion as to how I get there. I will work
Mhm.
it out. I'm also, painting again after 25 years. which has
Mm.
been the most extraordinarily beautiful
Mm-hmm.
part of my practice. And I kind of run to the studio every day because I forgot how much I love doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do want to wrap up by saying that the other day we were watching Powers of 10 by Charles and Ray Eames. And
Oh
I
yeah.
was thinking that, I mean, think of that couple. I mean, actually, you guys are a little bit like that, like they were into so many things. They were architects, they were designers, they were filmmakers. They just figured it out. And I think, I'm sure you'll figure out the film and do something stunning. So I think may you try many, many, many different things because you got a long time to go.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for your time, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yeah.
And we look forward to seeing you next.
It's a
And
pleasure
look
talking
out.
to you.
Thanks
Yeah.
a lot.